Pavard! Oh!
Shaqiri. Wijnaldum! Oh my goodness gracious!
Soccer is the world's biggest sport, and the United States is no stranger to the world's game.
It's over. It is over. Trinidad, with nothing to play for, has dethroned the United States.
But you might ask yourself, why has the United States not reached its full potential? But first, we need to go back. Soccer has a rich history in the United States, dating back to the mid-19th century. But it would not see a professional league until 1968. The NASL, the National American Soccer League, would be established and brought several international stars, including Pelé, Franz Beckenbauer, and Johan Cruyff. Although the NASL folded in 1984, it left something behind, a belief that soccer could survive in the United States. This belief exploded in 1994 when the U.S. hosted the FIFA World Cup. Nearly 3.6 million fans filled stadiums across the country, proving that the world's game could thrive on American soil. It not only proved that people loved the sport, but also that the United States could win major international games. 2 years later, Major League Soccer was born. The league saw great initial success, but started to struggle after its first few seasons. It lost millions of dollars, 2 founding teams folded, and the league almost collapsed in 2001. By 2007, with the arrival of new talent like David Beckham, the league found its footing. Slowly, something began to grow, not just professional soccer, but youth participation. By the early 2000s, millions of American children were playing soccer. Despite the sport's growth, the issue of cost still plagues youth soccer. In most countries, soccer is free. It belongs to the community. In the United States, it became something families have to buy. So how do we identify the problem, and how do we fix it? To understand why soccer is so expensive in the United States, we have to understand how it's built. Unlike most countries, soccer in America doesn't grow from the bottom up. It grows from the top down. At the top of the pyramid sits the United States Soccer Federation. They oversee the national teams and set the direction for the sport. Below them sits professional soccer. Leagues like Major League Soccer represent the highest level of the domestic game. But here's where the American system begins to separate from the rest of the world. In most countries, professional clubs develop their own players. Children join local clubs at little to no cost, and the most talented players move up through fully funded academies. In the United States, that pathway barely exists. Instead, the foundation of the pyramid is made up of thousands of independent youth clubs. Most of them are privately run, and most of them are funded by families. This is known as the pay-to-play system. Players don't just try out, they pay to participate. Fees cover coaching, fields, tournaments, uniforms, and travel. For competitive players, these costs can exceed $4,000 per season, and the higher a player climbs, the more expensive the games become. At the elite level, some players may reach fully funded academies tied to MLS clubs, but that represents the 1% of elite youth soccer players in the United States. Below that level, leagues like ECNL, USYS, and EDP remain almost entirely family-funded. This creates a system where opportunity depends less on talent and more on financial success. When opportunity is tied to income, talent gets left behind. Across the country, thousands of players walk away from the game, not because they lack ability, but because they can't afford to stay. Meanwhile, in other parts of the world, the best players are often discovered in the poorest neighborhoods. Players like Messi, Ronaldo, and Neymar all came from backgrounds of poverty and became some of the most recognizable players of the 21st century. The United States will never see a story like that because of the financial wall in front of youth soccer. The U.S. Soccer Federation knows the problem exists, but its solutions barely scratch the surface. Take the Innovate to Grow Fund. In 2024, it distributed just over $3 million nationwide. At first glance, that might seem like a lot, but spread across millions of children and thousands of youth clubs, it's a drop in the bucket. Similarly, the USSF Development Fund offers scholarships, but the average award from 2018 to 2019 was just $1,469 per player. Families often spend thousands of dollars per season, and the scholarships only cover a fraction of that cost. These programs reach a tiny fraction of the youth population, leaving most families to shoulder the burden alone. The Federation efforts are small supplements, not systemic reform. Compared to Europe, the gap is massive. Instead of relying on families to fund development, national federations directly invest in grassroots soccer. In Germany, the National Federation allocates millions of euros each year to amateur clubs. The funding helps local teams cover coaching, equipment, and facilities, which allows children to join without worrying about cost. France operates in a similar way. Through its Amateur Football Support Fund, thousands of local clubs receive financial assistance. As a result, nearly half of French children have access to organized soccer at little to no cost. And the investment doesn't stop at the national level. UEFA, the governing body for all of European soccer, reinvests money from major competitions back into youth development. Through programs like Hat Trick, funding flows directly into coaching, youth leagues, and local infrastructure, creating a system where the game grows from the bottom up, not from a parent's wallet, but from international investment. The United States doesn't need to tear down its entire system. It needs to strengthen it with real investment. The first step is expanding meaningful financial support, scholarships that don't just reduce costs, but eliminate them, covering equipment, travel, and training. The Federation could also invest directly into communities, building and maintaining fields in underserved areas, creating partnerships with schools, nonprofits, and local governments, and expanding programs for girls and disabled athletes. But the biggest shift must come from how youth soccer is funded. Instead of relying on parents, multiple avenues from the professional game, such as broadcast deals, ticket sales, jersey sales, and international competitions hosted on American soil, could fuel development. All of it could be reinvested into the next generation, creating a cycle where the success of the top funds the future at the bottom, so that access is no longer determined by income, but by passion and potential. Supporters of the current system argue that pay-to-play isn't a flaw, it's a necessity. Many club owners point out that without financial backing from the Federation, they have no other way to survive. If participation suddenly became free, some fear clubs would collapse, directly showing the terrible foundations that soccer relies on to survive. Others argue that paying creates commitment. When families invest financially, players may take the sport more seriously. Some believe the system has helped the sport grow, but these arguments reveal the system's biggest weakness. They treat soccer as a service, not a pathway. Other nations have proven that commitment doesn't come from payment, it comes from opportunity. Germany, France, and others sustain competitive youth systems without relying on families. Their federation invests directly into the game, and as a result, their talent pools are deeper, more diverse, and more competitive. The United States has growth, but growth alone isn't enough. The United States does not lack passion for soccer. It does not lack money, and it does not lack talent. What it lacks is equal access. For too long, the cost of youth soccer has limited who gets to compete. When opportunity depends on income, the talent pool shrinks. Other nations invest in their foundation. They treat youth development as a national priority, not a private expense. If the United States wants to consistently compete at the highest level, it must do the same. This means meaningful funding, expanded scholarships, and reinvesting revenue from the top of the pyramid into the bottom. The future of American soccer should not be decided by who can afford it. It should be decided by who earns it. Until access changes, results won't. The path forward is clear. The question is whether the U.S. Soccer Federation is willing to take it.